Good afternoon. Welcome to Business 360, your complete view of the stories driving business, markets, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin, and this is the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Senator Pia Cayetano has now been named the head of the Blue Ribbon Committee, and Ping Lacson the vice chairperson. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. himself admits the country could be headed towards stagflation. Top business groups are watching the Duterte impeachment closely, warning it could make or break investment confidence. We get insights from Donald Lim, president of the Management Association of the Philippines. The global bond sell-off intensifies, with the Philippines one of the more vulnerable economies. Plus, we get a snapshot of the luxury property market amid economic uncertainty. SM's Signature Series joins us. It's official. Pia Cayetano is now the chairperson of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, the panel in charge of investigating the flood control scandal and last week's Senate shooting. Hannah T. has that and other Senate updates. Hannah? We'll get back to Hannah. The Supreme Court denies Senator Bato de la Rosa's bid to block a possible arrest by the International Criminal Court. Ched Gatchalian joins us live from the High Court. Ched?
Apa, the Supreme Court has denied the petition for a temporary restraining order sought by Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa on the possible enforcement of an ICC arrest warrant against him. In a vote of 9-5-1, the SC denied the prayer for a TRO and status quo under order filed by De La Rosa's camp. But the High Court clarified the decision was only on the prayers for interim relief, and the main issues argued by both parties in their pleadings and motions are yet to be resolved. This means that the SC has no decision yet on the issue of fugitive definition brought up by the Office of the Solicitor General in its comment, and on the contention of De La Rosa's camp on the validity of the ICC warrant. The Department of Justice earlier said it will wait for all the legal issues to be resolved first before the SC should the said petition. As of now, the DOJ has yet to answer us if the TRO denial is also a cue to arrest De La Rosa. It can be recalled that the DOJ earlier said the arrest can only happen if the senator attempts to leave the country. Apa?
Thank you, Ched. I think we have Hannah on the line. Hannah, what's happening at the Senate? Still no Hannah. Okay. The president and several economists are warning about the risk of stagflation, where high prices, slow growth, and weak jobs hit the country all at once. Che Sulit has these details.
As to the economy, the concern that we have is the concern about stagflation, which is when the GDP growth is stagnant, but inflation continues to increase.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has once again raised the alarm over the country's stagflation risks. At a roundtable with Japanese media, Marcos warned that the impacts of the Middle East conflict have spilled over to the rising prices of goods and services at home. The crisis has led to a spike in fuel prices over the past months, affecting several sectors including transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, and MSMEs. The latest data from the Philippine Statistics Authority has shown that the country's inflation rate surged to 7.2% in April, and economic growth slowed to 2.8% for the first quarter of the year. With these figures, economist Jonathan Ravella says that the country is potentially at risk of stagflation, but stresses that we are not there yet. Stagflation is characterized by high inflation, high unemployment, and slow economic growth.
At the start of the year, we were ready to spend. Things were getting brighter, then suddenly things changed. Now, it's very difficult to convince households to spend when prices are going up, where every month prices of goods, gasoline, and electricity continues to go up.
De La Salle University economists have also warned that the Philippine economy is decelerating. In the DLSU report on the Philippine economy for May 2026, academics now project a growth rate of 3.11% for this year. That's lower than last year's 4.4%. The experts also warned that the rising cost of fertilizer could drive up agricultural production costs, which may eventually lead to higher prices for consumers. Meanwhile, the peso is also expected to depreciate further in 2026. The economists say the country's currency may hit a record low of 63.5 pesos against the US dollar in August. For Avelas, the country's economic growth may still improve. He projects that government spending may pick up in the second part of this year, addressing the deceleration. As of now, he says consumers have shifted to a cautious recovery mode as Filipinos opt to be selective with buying in order to save up their money. Che Sulit, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Thank you, Che Sulit. We're going to make a third try to contact Hannah at the Senate. Hannah T.
Yes, Apa. Currently, we just received information that Senator Pia Cayetano will be replacing Senator Ping Lacson as new Blue Ribbon Committee Chair, a committee crucial for its investigation in the flood control scandal. And we are also expecting that they will probe on the Senate shooting that happened last week. Among the new committee chairmanships is also on the Committee on Foreign Relations, which will be chaired by Senator Amy Marcos, replacing Senator Erwin Tulfo. Meanwhile, suspended acting Senate Sergeant-at-Arms Mau Aplaska insisted that the CCTV footage of the Senate shooting incident was spliced and is standing by the claim that the Senate was under attack. The CIDG earlier said Aplaska and his men had no basis to fire their weapons under the Private Security Services Industry Act, arguing there was no imminent danger or unlawful aggression that would justify the use of firearms. A Malacanang press conference also showed a series of CCTV footage of Aplaska initiating the first shot toward NBI agents deployed near the Senate complex, prompting return fire from the other side. But Aplaska is now pushing back against the government's version of events. According to the suspended Senate Sergeant-at-Arms, the videos released to the public were allegedly spliced and only showed select portions that would support the narrative that the Senate was never under attack. Aplaska said his camp is now preparing complete videos of the incident, which he claims would show a different version of what happened that night. He also denied reports that there had been prior coordination with the NBI as early as May 12, saying the security meeting he personally presided over was only about preparations for the possible transmittal from the House of the impeachment articles against Vice President Sara Duterte. Aplaska said the only non-Senate security official present in that meeting was a GSIS security manager who allegedly never mentioned any upcoming NBI operation inside or around the Senate. The shooting incident last week happened amid heightened tensions inside the Senate, including the surfaced controversial ICC warrant of arrest against Senator Bato de la Rosa. The CIDG already recommended the filing of charges against Aplaska and two other Senate security personnel. Back to you, Apa.
Thank you, Hannah T, for that report. Coming up, Management Association of the Philippines President Donald Lim joins us. This is Business 360. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. Political developments are now entering the business conversation. Top business groups have called on the Senate to hold a fair and transparent impeachment trial for Vice President Sara Duterte. Joining us now is Donald Lim, President of the Management Association of the Philippines. Hi, Donald.
Thank you. Thank you, Apa, for having me.
Donald, first off, how are business leaders reading the political climate right now, particularly after the Senate convened as an impeachment court?
Well, it's a bit challenging for us. You know, when we are in business, we want a certain level of stability. So what's happening right now makes everything very unstable. A lot of the camps maneuvering within the political frame going around. So even the business itself, we're left speculating what will happen rather than following what is, for example, the rule of law, what government should be doing. We're the ones right now checking, okay, what's going to happen, what will happen to our country, and even going towards 2028, who's there left to run the country, right? So I think the big challenge is really the predictability and stability. And right now, we talked about stagflation, we talked about increasing prices. I mean, these have to be addressed. Not only by the private sector, but we also need the leadership of government to tell us what to do.
Yeah. From MAP's perspective, what are the governance benchmarks that would show the impeachment trial is being handled with the integrity, fairness, and institutional discipline that the business community expects?
I think they have to be, number one, it has to be transparent. I think it has to be transparent, meaning we have to know what's really happening, no side deals, everything has to be laid out properly. I think speed is also very important in a way that we don't want to delay because a certain law will be invoked or whatever, right? So I think it's all about stability. It's all about following the rule of law, because if government were to subject private sector, you have to follow all of these rules and all of these laws. Now we're seeing that if government were to find loopholes and try to invoke other things, then we begin to see government lightly. So I think for me, speed is very important. I think, and people would have to know what's happening, and it has to be decided quickly.
The Management Association speaks for some of the biggest business names in the country. Yeah. When you issue a statement, are senators and officials actually listening, or do the business community need to find other ways to make their voice heard?
I would believe that they do listen, because we know that when we issue certain statements, at the very least, their chief of staff or their USEC or undersecretaries on the executive level or in the legislative, their chief of staff would come to us and say, can you help us clarify? Can you help us understand what you mean by this? So I think experience-wise, for the past 5 to 10 years, we've been engaging government very strongly. In fact, when a big issue comes around, we would also, for example, in our general membership meetings, these cabinet secretaries or these legislators would come to our events and explain it properly.
Yeah, actually, this government seems to be a lot more collaborative than, say, the Duterte government.
Yeah, in a way, yes. Especially, I would say, on the executive front, the cabinet secretaries have been very welcoming. They're one message away if we have certain questions. So I think it's a work in progress. I mean, the whole of government approach, from every presidency, at least right now, they're more welcoming. I think from the start, our president has shown that, because he assembled the PISAC, the Private Sector Advisory Council. So I think there's that communication that's ongoing.
And many of his cabinet secretaries are actually from the private sector.
Exactly, that's well put, right? And they know how the private sector thinks and reacts to certain things.
Mm-hmm. At what point does this political noise that we're experiencing become an actual economic risk? Are investors already asking questions, or is the concern still mostly domestic?
No, I think it's at the very, what I can say is ASEAN. We're hosting ASEAN.
Yeah.
So I was in the ASEAN BAC meetings, and some of the business people representing their different business countries would always say, "Oh, what's happening here?" I mean, at the height of that BAC meeting, that was during the Monday, was one of our good senators was falling down the stairs and being chased, and then you have gunshots. It doesn't look well for us, right? and I think it cannot be helped that we are always now being compared to a Vietnam, where in the ASEAN, right now, they're a bit of a darling in the ASEAN, which means that from nothing to now surpassing and becoming a threat to the bigger names, right? Because the investment-wise, tourism-wise, I mean, all of those economic numbers are really up there already. They've really surpassed us.
Yeah, and they've got great political stability.
Yep.
That's,
I think that's what we can, and I think that's a big question for us. Are we ready for this kind of a democracy, right? Or do we really have to undergo this process and find ourselves who we really are as a country? But if you look at it, I do remember 10 years ago, they were saying the VIPs, right? Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines. And we say, oh, Philippines, we're really the rising tiger. We've been saying that for 20 years. And then now, have we risen, or are we still laid back and are we still sleeping? because everyone has already left us already.
Yeah. Does the business community have a plan B for maintaining investor confidence, just in case political instability persists through the rest of 2026, potentially overlapping with the country's ASEAN chairmanship?
Yeah, well, for us, it's really about governance. I think what we can claim, I mean, even our SEC chair, Francis Lim, he would always espouse right governance. So at the very least, when you deal with a private entity, a private organization, we know how to do it right. I mean, the right way, we follow the protocols, the rules, the laws, right? And everything is above board. That's, you know, in the very end, why are we still alive and surviving as a country? It's because it's still 110, 20 million Filipinos, very young population. I think we're very tech savvy. AI is overtaking us, but I think we have to go into that fray and also find our way there, how we're going to position ourselves, right, in the new AI economy. But I think we're trying to discover ourselves also there. So I think we're still okay. But I think the plan B of business is really to focus on fundamentals, on governance, on ensuring that we don't expand too much, but we still have business to be made here.
MAP has outlined priority areas under the ASEAN chairmanship: digital services, creative economy, renewable energy, food security, logistics. A few months in, how confident are you that the Philippines is converting this diplomatic window into real economic gains?
When we were with the ASEAN BAC, I think we've identified very specific projects, plans, legacy projects with them. I think for digital, for logistics, each of the, and I'll leave that to of course, our ASEAN BAC group to lay that out.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that they said, no, we're not all talk, no action, no, like so NATO, no action, talk only, right? So they call it NATO. No action, talk only. I think they all recognize that already. Let's stop talking. Let's start building projects, plans, and put it into policy so that business can execute. So I think we're pushing that from the MAP front. I think the ASEAN BAC is also working with the various business groups. So let's see. I think one of the most important parts is recognizing that we have to stop talking, start executing now.
If we want to attract investors looking at ASEAN, what is the Philippines' strongest pitch right now, and what is the weakest part of that pitch?
They would always say that the biggest challenge of Philippines is the ease of doing business part, right?
Yes.
That it will take so many signatures to get something done, right? I think our ease of doing business under the ARTA is doing quite well. It's a long way off in terms of so many things has to be done.
Yeah, but
they've
good
done
first,
a lot
second, and third steps.
They've done so much already. You know,
Yeah.
we've been very much involved, no, with Secretary Ernie Perez, and he's doing very well. I think we just have to keep pushing that to retain that confidence. I think our market, being again 120 million Filipinos, still a very prime market. So anyone who wants to invest here is still a good workforce base, still a good consumer base. So that's something we can continue to promise.
Yeah. Other governments in the region, Singapore, Indonesia, Vietnam, are moving aggressively on AI adoption. We're getting left behind in that race, I think. Is our AI readiness part of our pitch to ASEAN investors?
Yes, we are. So one of the pitches, we're going to have an ASEAN AI Summit that's going to happen this September.
Okay.
And I chair the AI Global Council. So we're trying to help drive policy. In fact, the Congress now has a hearing on harmonizing all of the AI proposals that's coming from left and right. We're also discussing how can we execute AI properly, not only from an education standpoint, but how also do we training our students. At the same time, how the private sector, how organizations can adopt AI. We're also identifying, for example, how BPOs, which are our biggest labor base, how can they adopt AI? Because they will sooner or later will be replaced. The real voice will be replaced by an AI voice. So how do they navigate? This is going to be a very, very, from fall off the cliff change, right? So that's going to happen soon. So I think we're working and we're planning for all of those.
We're going to need a lot of muscle, and by that I mean infrastructure.
That's right.
And we're looking at billions of dollars in investment in infrastructure, AI infrastructure. Are we starting to think about where we're going to get this money?
So our DICT Secretary, Henry, has been talking about that for some time also. I think we're opening up some of the northern corridor, Bataan, among many others, in terms of setting up data centers, data warehouses, so that we can run all of these properly. So I think a lot of discussions in play, but that's a good question. Can we do it? Do we have enough investments? Especially because electricity costs are very high.
Yeah.
So when to run data centers, you need all of this electricity. So we have to look at renewables also. So again, all of these have to come into play all at once. Cannot be one and then after that we consider the next.
There's a push to create the first AI native industrial hub in the Philippines under Pax Silica, covering semiconductors, AI infrastructure, critical minerals. How ready is the country to plug into that supply chain? Are MAP members themselves positioning for it?
We're talking about it many times over. I think let's say we're excited about it. I think many of our members are excited about it. It's not really the dollars per se when you set it up, but it's really the springboard. Once it's set up and hopefully properly and done right, it will open up all the other opportunities that can happen thereafter.
Yeah.
So I think it should be a very good first step for us.
More countries have joined the Luzon Economic Corridor, but mostly U.S. allies. Do you see geopolitical and trade risks with China?
Definitely that discussion will always be there. But I think when you talk business, usually we try to not talk politics, right? Then hopefully we get, again, Chinese to be very open to investing here. But if not, right now you're right. We're prioritizing a lot with the U.S. companies. Whoever, in a way, because we're a business economy, we hope that whoever wants to invest really puts their heart into it and really dedicates to really growing our country. So from a business perspective, it shouldn't matter. But right now, the priority by default is really going after the U.S.
Beyond the impeachment, what's the one policy reform MAP is pushing for in 2026 that could have the biggest near-term impact on the economy?
We're working on a lot. I think the Cadena Act, putting the bill on the budget on the blockchain. We're looking at the party list.
You're personally involved in that.
Yeah,
Cadena
that's right.
thing.
That's right. In Cadena, party list. Re-looking at the party list law. We're looking at anti-dynasty. Right. So I think those are our top three that we're trying to rally the private sector, the different groups, in terms of ensuring it gets passed properly with the right, fine prints, right? And hopefully it gets, that gets passed before the next, the next legislation.
Thank you very much, Donald Lim, President of the Management Association of the Philippines.
Okay. Thank you.
Coming up, we get a snapshot of the luxury property market amid economic uncertainty. SM Signature Series joins us next. This is Business 360. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. High rates, peso volatility, and global uncertainty are making property buyers more selective. But how about in the premium and luxury segment? Joining us now is Jose Juan Hugo, Executive Vice President and Head of Signature Series by SM Residences. Jose, welcome to the show.
Thank you for your time, Apa. I'm glad to be here.
We're very interested in this topic. The premium or the luxury real estate or property market is very interesting in this country because it doesn't seem to suffer during economic downturns. No?
Well, yes, that's the impression. But whenever the economy or the economic landscape meets some challenges, we also have it also impacts us.
Yeah.
But it's quite a resilient sector, and it's always able to pull through, and hopefully it stays that way.
SM Signature Series is a fairly new player in the premium and luxury real estate space. How has demand been so far? Have you been able to capture market share?
Yes, we have. Well, we're a very new organization. We launched our first project very recently, just a few months ago. We organized ourselves over the last 2 years to be where we are today. And so far, we got in good traction. Unfortunately, it came in the midst of global shocks, but we are adjusting to it, and we're adapting to what has to be adapted to. And so far, it's all been good.
Susana Heights sits in an area with several other premium residential developments. What's drawing buyers to Susana Heights specifically?
Susana Heights is very special in many ways. Firstly, it's within Metro Manila.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to find jewels of property like this within the city. If you want to find horizontal development this special, then you normally have to go out or you pay the price. Susana Heights is it's in that sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone, where you're still able to come in at good prices that will appreciate fairly soon.
Did SMDC acquire this property from the Madrigals, or are you joint venturing with them? Susana is Susana Paterno Madrigal.
It's been in the SM group for the longest time.
Okay.
So it's only now that we decided to resurrect the project. The company has held on to treasury lots in Susana Heights Village for a few decades.
Yeah.
And we thought it was time now to release the inventory we've had. And
Land bank.
yes, the foresight of the founder and the family has been tremendous. And it's very few and far in between where you see developers who are able to hold on to land bank like this.
So it was Tatang who bought it, not even Tessie.
Well, I believe so. It precedes me. It precedes me. But there's a lot of history in this property. But the key point really is that we've held on to it, and it's now that we decided to release the treasury lots into the market.
What's your buyer profile? Is it are they looking for second homes, primary residences, or generational holding?
We're hoping that the people who have been buying from us now will decide to build homes there. I mean, that's what we want, right?
Yeah.
Susana Heights Village is already a very mature community, but we'd like to see more population come in. It's a perfect place to build a home in. But we launched only very recently, so we have to see yet how the profile of the buyers will evolve. What we're seeing now is that people are buying for the capital appreciation. They've already made capital appreciation since we launched, but we're hoping that sooner than later they will build homes there to make it an even more thriving community.
Why the South? Why is the South the hot area? I mean, you don't see people building Susana Heights in Bulacan.
Well, hopefully we'll see these promising pockets of development everywhere soon. But the South development in this country and anywhere, I guess, would really follow the path of infrastructure. And the South, by virtue of what has happened across many segments, developed faster than the North with infrastructure, with developers land banking there generations ago. And it's now that it's erupting into something very robust. So by default, the South has become a very exciting place to develop in. We're seeing that slowly happening in the North, with Clark coming in and with Subic, and it will take time. Property development is not something that happens overnight. It will take years, but in this business, 10, 15 years is a blink.
Yeah. Let's talk about your ultra-luxury condo development, the Estate, Makati. Metro Manila condo vacancy is at multi-year highs. How are you selling against that backdrop?
We have to put that into context. The vacancies that we are seeing and hearing and reading about really are in the broader market.
Yeah.
But when we talk about the luxury market and the ultra-luxury market, like the Estate Makati, for example, 188 units. This, by the way, is our partnership with Federal Land.
Yes.
So we do have partners here. But there are very few of these projects that go around, and the Estate Makati is one of them. It's very scarce. Even when there were multiple projects like this happening at the same time a few years ago, the supply was scarce. And the Estate Makati now, I believe, to my best knowledge, is the only ultra-luxury market that is still selling. All the others have been sold. So we're the ones out there with offerings of very few units left. It's been exciting. It's been robust.
Is it pretty low density compared to?
It is. 188 units compared to other ultra luxury projects that have much more density packed into it. But by default, the property is also quite compact.
Yeah.
It's along
What's the
apartment ridge.
footprint of the?
If I recall correctly, it's just a bit over 3,000 square meters.
Okay.
The lot pad,
Yeah.
But we built very high, 60 stories. So that's about 4 units per floor. Very, very spacious, very well designed by signature architects from the U.S. So we're turning that over in the coming months.
Yeah, Q1 2027.
That's right.
Turnover is a hard date.
That's right.
Where is completion today, and realistically, can that timeline hold?
Yes,
With the
yes.
rising risks.
We are finishing the project by end of the year.
Okay.
And by Q1, we'll start turning over to our buyers, and that will go on for maybe a few months.
Ultra luxury developments typically depend on imported finishes. With supply chain disruptions happening, are you seeing pressures in that regard?
Yes, we are, but that's par for the course.
Yeah.
In this business, it's par for the course, and developers have to adjust, they have to adapt. Key here is locking in the contracts early on, which we've done. This global shock with the Hormuz Strait, that kind of complicated shipments and logistics, but we're navigating through that, and we're still completing the project in time by end of the year.
Of all the macro risks, BSP rates staying high, peso volatility, which one is affecting your sales pipeline the most?
Interest rates will affect us, definitely, but we're also seeing a good number of buyers choosing to pay in cash. This market has the resources to pay in cash, and we've seen that over the years. Interest rates, yes, clearly a major factor, but as I mentioned, developers have to adapt and to adjust. So we see how we can work together with the buyers to make the purchase viable.
There are two readings on luxury real estate in uncertain markets. It either benefits as a hard asset hedge, or it gets hit first because of big ticket discretionary spend pulling back. What's your sales data showing?
My point of view here has always been that in our history as a Filipino nation, the property segment, particularly this sector, has always been the most resilient and the most. It's been the one with the most resolve. So my reading here is that no matter what happens, people will benefit from the purchases. It will hold up, despite all the turmoil we've gone through over the decades in our history. It's always been the sector that always stood ground.
Okay. Well, one final question that I want to throw in here. SM is going to have to really work on its branding because it's known for, the broad market, right? And very, very high density. It's able to offer the cheapest product that, value for money, but this is a completely different play.
Yes,
you have to convince people that SM has the style and taste and prestige to pull this off.
Yeah, the SM brand is an immensely powerful brand.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful brand.
No kidding.
And the strategy of the company has always been to address the broader market. And they've succeeded in doing that without question.
Yeah.
But what we've also seen, and what the public has seen as well, is that they've been able to go upstream and uplift the experiences across multiple product lines. The malls, for example, of our childhood, the SM malls, have really been uplifted in experience.
Yeah.
And they've gone upscale without abandoning the core market that they've chosen to dominate very convincingly. Yeah. The hotels they have are very upscale now. Yeah. The offices they have can stand shoulder to shoulder with any building in Makati or BGC.
Sure.
So it's been done. In the company, it's been done. And now what we have to do is do that in the residential portion. And that's why we're here.
Okay. Thank you, Jose Juan Hugo,
Thank you.
Executive Vice President and Head of Signature Series by SM Residences.
Thank you, Apa.
Up next, global markets, what's moving and why. This is Business 360. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. The global bond sell-off is deepening and the Philippines is feeling the pressure. Bloomberg data shows Philippine bonds have suffered a 13% loss for dollar-based investors, the biggest decline among emerging Asian markets. The drop followed a sharp rise in U.S. Treasury yields, with the 10-year yield hitting a 16-month high and the 30-year yield reaching its highest level since 2007. The global bond sell-off persisted as investors increased bets. The U.S. Federal Reserve could still deliver more rate hikes this year. Following the global bond sell-off, the government rejected all bids for Treasury bonds. Based on the results of the Bureau of Treasury's auction, a total of 33.68 billion pesos in tenders was rejected, with an average maturity of roughly 7 years. The move suggests investors were demanding yields the government was not willing to accept. The Philippine peso is being described as, quote, the weakest link in Asia. ING's research and analysis arm says inflation risks are now outweighing growth concerns. The report says even a weak GDP print may not stop the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas from hiking rates in June. ING still expects a front-loaded but gradual tightening cycle to a total of 75 basis points in 2026. ING's Think says higher rates may give the peso some short-term support, but the currency will remain vulnerable to movements in global oil prices. Wall Street fell into the red as rising Treasury yields kept pressure on risk assets. The Nasdaq slipped the most, with investors taking profits. Local shares joined the broader global sell-off amid surging bond yields. The Philippine Stock Exchange Index fell for a fourth straight session, staying in the 5,800 level. Sector performance was mixed, with services posting the biggest gains, while industrials registered the sharpest decline. Most active stocks also closed mixed. Ayala Land led the advancers, climbing nearly 2%, while ASEAN was the top laggard, sliding almost 5%. A new warning from President Donald Trump. He says the U.S. may attack Iran again if nuclear talks fail. This after he delayed a strike when Gulf allies asked for more time for peace negotiations. Trump emphasized that preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon remained a priority.
We're going to end that war very quickly. They want to make a deal so badly. They're tired of Iran. We have to stop them. They have nuclear on their mind, and we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon. And we've done a hell of a job, and I think we're going to be finished with that very quickly, and they won't have a nuclear weapon, and hopefully we're going to get it done in a very nice manner.
Israel and the U.S. have reportedly prepared for new military operations against Iran, which could happen as early as this weekend or next week. If that happens, Iran warned it would respond with new attacks. Russia is considering possible joint projects with the United States and China. That's according to the chief of the Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Beijing for talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The two leaders are holding a summit to discuss bilateral and international issues. Putin told Xi they would develop their comprehensive partnership, which he said has stood the test of time.
Even against the backdrop of unfavorable external factors, our interaction and economic cooperation demonstrate strong momentum. Trade turnover has grown more than 30-fold over the past quarter century and has consistently exceeded the $200 billion mark for several years in a row. The driving force of economic cooperation is Russian-Chinese interaction in the energy sector. Amid the crisis in the Middle East, Russia continues to maintain its role as a reliable supplier of resources, while China remains a responsible consumer of these resources.
The summit comes shortly after U.S. President Donald Trump visited Beijing. drawing close global attention. President Marcos said the country could be drawn into any conflict over Taiwan due to its proximity. About 200,000 Filipinos live and work in Taiwan, making it a key concern. The comments come before Marcos's visit to Japan for security talks with Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi. China urged the Philippines to follow the One China principle and avoid interference in Taiwan. The Philippines is expanding security ties with the U.S. and Japan amid regional tensions. Up to 1 million jobs could be created for Filipinos under the Luzon Economic Corridor. That's according to Malacanang. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. met with U.S. Undersecretary of State Jacob Helberg to discuss the LEC, Pax Silica, and other trade priorities. The palace says the talks reaffirm the shared commitment of the Philippines and the U.S. to deeper economic and trade cooperation. In South Korea, Samsung's labor union is pushing through with an 18-day strike starting Thursday. That's despite the tech giant's offer to resume talks. The walkout threatens to disrupt operations at the world's biggest memory chip maker. Negotiations over pay and bonuses broke down last week, even after government mediation. Samsung says it is still seeking a deal and apologized for the labor dispute. More stories when we return. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. Franz Alvarez has been appointed as acting president and chief executive officer of the Philippine National Oil Company. He replaces Maria Cristina Cabaraban. Alvarez was the former representative of the 1st District of Palawan from 2013 to 2023. Cebu Pacific is bringing back Manila to Dubai flights starting July 2. Passengers with canceled flights to and from Dubai may start rebooking their flights. The airline says they held safety assessments and talks with Dubai airport authorities prior to their decision. Dozens of local and foreign firms are showing interest in the MRT-3 public-private partnership project. The Department of Transportation says more than 70 companies took part in market consultations for the project. The government is seeking private sector partners to handle the operations and maintenance of MRT-3 as well as system upgrades.
This is an existing line. It's an existing line, and we know that historically, yung ridership nito can reach up to 620,000, 630,000 people a day. So in terms of ridership, in terms of demand, sigurado tayo na meron dito sa MRT-3.
And that's Business 360. We'll keep tracking the moves that matter across markets, policy, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.